Information Technology Leaders is sponsored by Solucient, a leading source of healthcare business intelligence. Solucient provides comprehensive, results-oriented information to drive business growth, manage costs, and help deliver quality care. Their expertise and proven solutions enable providers, payers, employers, and pharmaceutical companies to achieve results and realize value. More information is available at www.solution.com. This week on Information Technology Leaders, Ken Whitaker, Senior Vice President of Software Development for Solucient. Now here's your host, Laura Schildkraut.
Today's guest is the Senior Vice President of Software Development for Solucient, a company that powers healthcare decisions for providers, payers, managed care organizations, large employers, pharmaceutical companies, and consultants. He holds to a strong philosophy that it's more important to focus on keeping your customers happy than keeping your employees happy. That if you have satisfied customers, good things will follow for the company and its employees. His career spans several companies, industries, and geographic regions. Throughout this career, he has stepped up and taken responsibility when systems have not worked properly or when an unappealing job needed to be done and no one else would volunteer to own the project. He describes himself as zany but responsible, irreverent but loyal, and he refuses to tolerate prima donnas no matter how talented they are. Please welcome Ken Whitaker. So you were conceived in Casablanca. Where were you born?
Monette, Missouri,
Yeah.
a little podunk town that actually has their own website.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The whole town has a website?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you spend your childhood?
All over the place. My father was in the service, so we traveled all throughout the United States and in Europe, and back to Casablanca after I was born.
What were the good and the bad aspects of all that moving around through childhood?
The good part is it helps you adjust to change. It puts a fair amount of responsibility on you, and you never really have quite the Andy Griffith style of life. You are always being uprooted and having to meet a whole new set of friends and have to deal with new rules and schools and all that stuff. So as a kid, it was interesting because of that. Also, you get a good flavor of different ways of life, different cultures, and that I really liked, especially being overseas. The bad part is you don't quite get well grounded, and you frequently have an itch to do more and to push forward. So it has its good and bad parts.
So home tends to be kind of transient for you?
Yeah, home's pretty much in your head.
What were you like in high school?
Well, I had zits. I was taller than most of the kids, so they made me play basketball, which I turned into kind of like a contact sport. And I guess I was not exactly the most popular guy because I was always interested in edgy things. I didn't appreciate fraternities or sororities in college or in the high school, the jock scene, and I certainly didn't like the drug scene, so I was caught somewhere in the middle. I was a good kid, though.
Yeah.
A very good kid.
A very good kid.
Yes.
When did you first know you were smart?
I don't think I ever figured that out. I guess I'm more practical than smart.
Did you tend to work your way through high school?
Through the latter part of high school, yes, I did.
What'd you do?
I worked all the time, and from that point on, yes.
What were some of your jobs?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Well, I worked in Germany when I was in high school, and I worked at a couple things. I actually learned how to type real good, so I was actually a clerk typist, and also did a lot of filing and stuff. And then I worked at a VD clinic.
Did you really?
Yes.
How'd that go?
I didn't touch much. I just plain did whatever they asked me and didn't make eye contact with anybody.
Okay. So that's how you learned that skill, right?
Yes. Yeah, it toughened me up,
Yeah.
that's for sure. It was a rude awakening to life, that's for sure. But that was in high school, yeah.
What college did you attend?
I attended 2 colleges, actually 3. The first one, my parents got transferred back to the United States, so I stayed overseas, and you know, it was good, believe me. And I went to the University of Maryland for the first 2 years of school overseas.
Well, that was in Germany, right?
Yes, that was wonderful. And then...
What was so good about it?
Well, I developed a habit of drinking beer and
Germany's
taking...
a good place for
yes,
that.
and taking 21 to 23 credit hours a semester. And so the combination worked really, it was a good balance, right, for me. Then afterwards I went back to the United States and finished up college at a place called James Madison University up in the Shenandoah Valley. And that was great. And then went to graduate school with Virginia Polytech. So that was pretty interesting.
And back into college, what area did you decide to focus in?
Oh my. I initially knew that I wanted to work with computers. In those days, they didn't have computer science. They had mathematics and physics and things. So I toyed between whether I was going to be in physics or mathematics. And so I majored in mathematics.
What brought about that
Please
strong
don't.
interest in math?
I actually was lost the first few weeks of mathematics. The high school I went to was not real good, and I was lost my first 2 weeks in calculus and really shuddered whether I was going to really make it. And at that time there were 33, 35 kids in school. And what was interesting about it is everybody was pretty hot. They knew exactly what was going on. I was completely lost. And by the end of the semester, I was one of 8 people left. So it taught me about persevering.
So you got married during college.
Yes.
And you had children fairly quickly. Did that have an impact on your ability to focus on studying, and how did you deal with all of the
No, I had
changes?
children after school, but oh no, it was not a problem at all. I pretty much like doing things pretty early, pretty quickly.
Apparently. And so balancing everything didn't become a problem for you?
It was tough, but and through college I worked full-time and went to full-time classes, so I just pretty much knew that I needed to pay for it, and so I did.
You did. You also had a strong interest in fine arts.
Yes.
Does that still interest you?
Oh yes. In fact, in my junior year of college, I decided that not only did I want to major in mathematics, I decided to double major in fine arts. And the counselors were not very impressed with me, but I didn't care, so I went ahead and did that too.
Yeah, probably not a lot of people doing that balance. Probably not used to seeing a lot of that.
No, I don't think so.
Well, so how did your math degree begin a career with computers? You said that you were interested in computers right off.
I also worked at computer jobs where I could throughout college, not all the time, but when I could find a job, I would definitely work it. And so I worked at a computer lab and learned how to do it. In those days, it was horrible. We had the punch decks, punch cards and stuff, and I remember spilling them once and having to sort them, and I thought, this is stupid. But I still wanted to do it.
Yeah, that persistence.
And then I advanced to paper tape reading. It's not Scotch tape, it's these little thin paper tapes, if you remember the old telex machines. It was that kind of thing.
And that was better.
And every time we had to write software, we had to reload in the operating system first. It was unbelievable the steps you'd go through. It would take hours to do anything, and it taught you the importance of quality and being careful. Otherwise, you'd have to start all over again.
Do you think that that kind of knowledge makes for better developers?
Nope.
Nope, not necessarily.
Nope.
No.
It was dumb, but it's all we had to work with in those days. Now it's so much easier and fun, and just the amount of productivity people have these days is amazing for what we accomplished in those days.
So tell us about getting your first job after college.
Oh man, that was hard. It was a tough economic climate, not unlike what we're facing right now. And at my first job, I was basically loading tapes carrying printouts to these stuffy programmers who never seemed to smile. And their hygiene wasn't that good either, I noticed. And so it was interesting. I still wanted to do what they were doing, but and I very quickly did. But it was a rude awakening to the whole business world.
How did security clearance lead to your getting an advanced degree, or your attaining an advanced degree?
It was interesting. I worked in the Washington, D.C. area, and a lot of the projects were defense related. And because of that, you were gainfully employed only if you could attain certain security clearances. And so I started getting them because the employer required it. And the more deeper they got in the security clearances, not only the better projects you'd get, but the more security and the more vaults you would have to be put into. And I don't know, they said they checked all sorts of personal information with each level of security clearance. I don't know how I got some of those security clearances, but they got them.
They gave them to you.
I don't think they talked to my parents.
No, probably not. What happened with the database towards the end of a project?
Right. Well, my first stint, I was with a company called Computer Sciences, and one of the projects was with National Geographic Society. If that's the one you're talking about, that was awesome. We were cataloging in a big database system all of the artists, the writers, the articles. And with that, the idea was to cross-reference anything that National Geographic published. And it was a great assignment. I was one of the lead programmers on it. And when we deployed it, about 20 typists, key punchers, were data like entry people, sorry. They were entering in the information using the software that we created to create those databases. And when we developed the software, we knew there was a fundamental problem with the database system. I even knew it. And as we implemented it, we didn't account for it. And lo and behold, after about a couple months into the keying in of lots of information, we ended up identifying the fact that random records were being truncated or lost. And
not good.
It was not good. It was a horrible feeling, and we all looked at it and found out what the problem was, corrected the problem. The issue is, what do you do about that information? And again, I was subcontracting to National Geographic, and we ended up trying to figure out what to do. My decision was, since I was the one responsible, was to go and tell the director of National Geographic that there was a serious problem. He knew it, but the issue was we found out what it was, and I should have known better. So I went to him and told him the problem. So that's what kind of happened.
Did you ever consider not saying anything?
Yeah, I'm human. I figured I could easily blame toss it to someone else, or avoid it and pretend like it was a computer error or someone hacked our computer, it wasn't our issue, or whatever. But no, I knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Was your supervisor supportive of that decision?
I didn't tell him. I went ahead and went in and told the director, the customer, and then told my manager later. And I just knew we needed to let them know right away, and I did.
Yeah. And what did you offer to do to fix it?
What I offered was, I felt so bad about it, and we did correct the problem like I mentioned, but what the problem was, I was worried about all the other people and their time spent entering in the information. So what I said was, what I would do is personally would re-enter all those missing records at night and on weekends so that we could catch back up. And I frankly hadn't calculated how much time it was, but it probably would have been several weeks. And so that's what I offered him. And I went back. He appreciated the information. He wasn't really happy, but at least we had solved the problem. And I went back to my office, and then went back to Computer Sciences headquarters, our like office building in Falls Church. That was a 2-hour drive, and that was a long drive for me. And
you were pretty sure you were done.
I figured I was toast. And I was such a nice guy too, but I figured it was over for me, you know.
And you were 24-ish at the time?
I was young, yeah, and I was worried, and I told my manager at the time what had happened, and he knew that the situation had occurred. He just didn't know where the problem was, and what I had told the director at National Geographic. And I waited back in my office and just figured that was it.
And what happened?
A few hours later, my boss called me back in and he sat me down and he closed the door.
Oh, not good.
Yeah, he didn't slam the door, but he closed the door and he said, well, the director of National Geographic had called him, told him about the situation, and two things had occurred. One was that they were going to give me a raise, and that they had offered, they wanted to do some additional nighttime classes and wondered if I would, for extra money, would teach the National Geographic software people all about quality and software like engineering. And I was stunned. And the reason why, obviously it was stunned, but what he said was, the National Geographic team hadn't met anyone that would actually volunteer to do something about it and knew that it was their problem. It was a good lesson for me because it just taught that even in tough times, it's better just to be direct and honest with the information. And so I was really surprised and frankly touched.
Because you need to look yourself in the mirror after something like that, and you need to know that you did the right thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Did you stay with the company long after that? Yeah.
I stayed another year. I was there for, I think, 3.5, 4 years.
When did you decide it was time to leave?
Well, the security, I wanted, it was quite a distance from my home. I wanted to get closer, and the other issue was I was interested to get out of the defense contracting work and more in the mainstream type of projects that were more commercially oriented rather than the government with defense.
So what was your next position and how did that come about?
I worked with a company up in Rockville, Maryland, and it was with, we did all sorts of intelligent terminal leasing software in those days. It was pretty neat because the dumb terminals became intelligent because they now included processors. And with the processors you could embed in software, and all that got really exciting. So I did that for a while. And so that was wonderful.
And that was at Data General?
No, that was right before, and I got a call from Data General down in North Carolina to actually join a company, to join them to work on the next generation of supercomputers. And the reason why I liked Data General was they were kind of like the bad guys, the bastards in the computer industry. And I recall looking at the Wall Street Journal and seeing one of their ads. It was a full-page ad. They had this ugly-looking pig staring at you, and it said, so IBM says they're going to legitimize the mini-computer industry. In those days, it was the supercomputers and the mini-computer stuff. And then at the bottom, it said, the bastards say welcome, Data General. And that was the kind of company I wanted to be at.
Yeah. And you were a QA manager.
Yes, I was in charge of quality assurance, and I didn't have, I would frankly say I didn't have a lot of experience with me, but they thought I could do it. Or maybe they couldn't find anybody else that would do it. I don't recall, but I came in under that job. It was awesome. I was there for about 9 years.
And did you feel well suited to do that job once you kind of figured out what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
I ended up, I think I'm a pretty good facilitator and communicator despite my accent, and it just worked out real well.
So what was your first promotion with them, and what were some of the traits that you think you presented that made you promotion worthy?
I got promoted to being a manager on the engineering side after that, and worked on the first PC compatible laptop computer.
11 months of hell?
It was 11 months of hell.
Yeah.
And we were in North Carolina, and the mainstream manufacturing and marketing was done up in Massachusetts, and the hardware work where all of the computer was actually manufactured, where our software was put into, was actually done way outside of Tokyo. So it was 3 sites geographically dispersed throughout the world, lots of cultural difference between all the organizations, and I tell you, it was a thrill and a half. So yeah, we created the first laptop that had a built-in plasma screen with a disk drive and a floppy and hard disk drive and a keyboard and everything all squoze into that little package that everybody now takes for granted.
Yeah. When was this? What year? Do you remember?
That was right after the PCs came out. I guess that
early
was,
80s.
Yes, it was about 83 to 84. That was exciting.
Very cool project.
Uh-huh.
A project later ended up bringing you to Westboro, Massachusetts. Tell us how that came about.
Right. After that, and by the way, what the fun thing with the laptop was, a number of us got to hand deliver those laptops to presidents of PC companies, and most of them aren't even around here anymore.
Interesting.
They aren't in business, but it was exciting handing it out. And then after that, I got into a project, a couple of different projects, more with the mainstream of Data General's mini computer business. That was all associated with office automation and high-end supercomputer stuff. I learned some additional lessons at that point too. So
the Westboro project, how did you
Right.
get there?
Well, our director of product development down in North Carolina got all the managers together, and what had happened was the Westboro, Massachusetts team found themselves to be in trouble with their schedules. And they had asked for help by the North Carolina team. And this is a real lesson with regard to cooperation among sites within a company. And what was interesting with the whole situation was it was near the holidays, and they needed some additional assistance urgently, and they couldn't tell how long it would last. It could be weeks or it could be months. And I came in late to the meeting, so I was next to the door, and the director explained the situation and asked the managers one by one who would help them. There was about 10 of us, and each one of these folks had experience with that could have been more applicable to help. Each one had some excuse. You know, I have holiday shopping to do, I can't get away, I have children. Another one was, you know, it's awful cold up there, and I just don't think I could do it. You know, another one was, the company up there has never really liked us, why should we help them? Rivalry. I mean, happens in every business. Every one of them, up to me, had basically had excuses not to help the company. I noticed that and just couldn't understand it. And so I said, and by the time the director asked me, he said, "Okay, Ken, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'm probably the least qualified of all of you, but by God, I'm going to do it and I'm going to grab a couple of college kids that don't know any better. And we're going to go up there and we're going to get this thing done." And frankly, I'm ashamed of the rest of you because the company does pay our paychecks. It's the right thing for the customer, and I can't believe you all got away with it. And I said to the director, and I'm embarrassed that you didn't force some of these others that are better qualified to do it, but I'm going to do it. And we did.
How'd it go?
It went great. We got it done. And I got some sort of a plaque of Employee of the Quarter, but I can't find it now.
One of those moves.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. But anyways, the recognition was embarrassing to me, as it is with most software people. As a team environment, you don't want it. But what was great was that we did get that job done, and the product got shipped.
And you probably had some fun doing it too, because sometimes when you're under adverse circumstances, you can really rally.
Yeah, they made fun of me all the time because the Boston people had more. I mean, I wondered why they were so nervous by the time 10 o'clock in the morning occurred. By that time, they had had about 3 gallons of coffee. They talked rapid fast, and in comes me. It was a problem, but you know, we got it done.
How much longer were you with Data General after that?
Oh, a while.
Good bit.
Yeah, it was fun.
And then how did your next position come about, and why was that appealing?
Well, it was all by accident, which, you know, like my birth, you know, same thing. And what was interesting with that one was I got a call. I was working with a project for the office automation project that was one of the first network-oriented one, way before Microsoft Office occurred. It was called CEO. And it was a great project that Data General had, and we were implementing it from mini computers, re-implementing it completely to run on PCs. And at that time, Windows wasn't even up. We had a predecessor called TopView from IBM that we used to be able to allow customers to multitask, doing different things. It was pretty exciting. I got a call from Fred Gibbons, the CEO of a company called Software Publishing. And I thought it was a prank call because he said who he was, and he said he was looking for a vice president of product development out in California. I thought it was a prank. So I talked back to him kind of. I didn't mean to, but it was, you know.
Did he like that at all?
No, he was not impressed. And he said, no, this is really Fred. And that he remembered me from the old laptop days when we had delivered the laptops to him out in California. And that they had been looking for some period of time for a VP of development out there and couldn't find someone. So would I come out to interview? And I did. And boy, that went awful fast. And I started working there.
Yeah. Were you ready for the VP job?
No,
No.
I was not.
Yeah.
I really think it was a fast climbing, and like you've seen several years ago with the internet startups, fast growing company. I experienced my first real big earthquake, the one of like '89 there. So that was wild.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting ordeal. During that time, we probably ran through about 20 senior executives of the company. Again, it was my first VP job, and the company was very consensus run, and we actually had, in like addition to the executive staff, we actually had a team of consultants that participated in almost every meeting to cross-check and make sure everybody was being honest and candid with each other. It was very interesting.
That's very strange.
Well, I wonder where all the hippies went, and I found them. They were all there at Software Publishing. But we did products like Harvard Graphics. That was the predecessor. It was the big PowerPoint type of competitive product. And Harvard Project Manager and Professional Write, and we did a lot of great things.
What were some of the skills that you needed to strengthen in order to kind of be ready for that VP level job?
I think the ability to prioritize, the ability to juggle, and the ability that if you're in trouble to be honest about it and raise the, to me,
Well, you knew that.
Yeah, but it was a rude awakening, and one of the issues was the importance of quality. It was my first and only product recall I've had. And what had happened was we had shipped a product where the engineering manager, the people that actually created the product, believed it was ready for the market. Yet the quality assurance team said, this product ain't ever going to ship. And the engineering people said, you know, basically, hey, you know, we're the ones responsible. Those issues that you're finding are not that critical. Customers will never find them. And we did. My
guess is they found them.
Yep. And a lot of the engineers got to talk to customers through the customer support lines. They got an opportunity to man the support lines, as I did too. It was truly a rough lesson to learn, but it was an important one. And not unlike a lot of companies in those days, but we knew better and we let it happen to ourselves. It was a really dark moment, no doubt.
How did you know it was time to leave that company?
It was interesting with all the turmoil with the executives cycling in and out of the company. I just knew no matter what I did, someday my time was coming, and I just was very uncomfortable with that. And I actually gave a presentation at NetWorld down in Dallas, Texas, and on a Saturday morning. You know, I missed the cartoons, but I went anyways.
Well, you know, it's all for the good of the team.
That's right. And so I had a few hours before my flight back, and I drove around Texas and thought, boy, this is pretty neat. I kind of liked it. A week later, I got, funnily enough, a call from a recruiter that said, guess what, I've got a position in Dallas, and AC Nielsen Marketing Research, the people that do the television ratings, had just bought a company, a startup down there, and they were overhauling the entire management team and wondered if I'd be interested. And I said, hell yeah. Yeah,
I'm coming down. And what was your job there?
Vice President of Product Development.
What were some of the critical skills that you brought to the organization?
I would say the ability to prioritize the importance of quality, which this particular group that I inherited had real struggles with. And I would say leadership as well as communication. I like to communicate. I like to talk, but I like more to listen and figure out what we need to do. So that's what I think that's why I was hired.
At one point, you and the vice president of sales had to go and have some fairly uncomfortable conversations with customers.
Yes.
What happened there?
The situation that happened when I joined, we had a small software team. I had at Software Publishing about 190 software people. At this company, we had about 20. And of the group, there was about 12 software programmers, 2 heavily stressed out testers, and 6 technical writers. I don't know how we had so many writers, because the products they were writing about were pure fiction, so we had some problems. And what was interesting was we had 13 products they were working on concurrently.
With that size team?
Right. There was no way any of them were going to ship.
Right.
So our VP of sales, who by the way wore those polyester jogging clothes that if you light, they'll catch on fire real quick. And
you have first-hand knowledge of this, or you just hear tell about it?
I never tried it. I just thought it looked kind of funky. And anyways, he had been there with the company. He was the only executive that was left. I think because he played golf real well. And we were behind in our revenue forecast for the year, so there was some risk there. Anyways, he and I decided that what we needed to do was to prioritize the projects, but I prioritized the 13 down to 3. He was livid when he found that out, because he had assumed that a number of those projects were going to make it to market and had actually seen demos of them, which in his mind was, that's close to shipping.
Right.
And that was obviously not true. And he was frustrated to know what the truth actually was. And you know what? Customers knew too, because they've been promised these products for some time. And so we prioritized them down. The VP of sales and I decided to go to the key customers and offer their money back, because a number of these customers that had already submitted purchase orders for these products, assuming they would be released in a short amount of time.
Did you have to talk the VP of sales into doing that, or was he willing to go?
He went. He flew for first class. I flew coach. And you know, if you're wearing the polyester stuff, you want to be away from normal people. And so he and I would actually go to the customers, and these were major retailers that we serviced, major chains, to tell them all the products. This isn't going to happen. This is the new schedule. Trust us.
One more time.
One more time. And by the way, we are going to offer to give you your money back. Now that we're going to offer your money back, he couldn't say.
He just couldn't get the words out.
I needed to say that instead.
Did they take you up on it?
Actually, none of them did. What was interesting about that was that the customers, they yelled at us for about 15, 20 minutes, you know, first to get it off their chest. And the reason why, and it was a real lesson for me, was they as customers that were paying our bills, they were credible. They were at risk too. They had committed their own future, that these projects were going to help their company.
Right.
So not only was it a dollar issue, these guys, their roles at their own companies were at risk if we didn't come through for them. Right. That was a real lesson for me.
About the connections.
The connection about that, that not only are we at risk in delivering products and our jobs are on the line, the customer's job is too. And I hadn't thought of that before. So anyways, the good part about that was we did deliver, and at our next employee customer user group, which the year before, customers couldn't wait to stand up and give testimonials of how our company had screwed them over. This time we're saying, you know, we didn't believe it. We even talked among ourselves, competitors, believe it or not, who had all bought the same software, that they bet that we wouldn't have come through, and we did. And they were not only happy, they were going to give us more business as a result. And after the end of that year, we weren't sure that we were going to make our revenue numbers, which is very important for a company, private or public. And we beat our goals. That was really nice.
Yeah. It's very satisfying when that happens, especially when you were able to pull it out of the jaws.
Yeah, and it was just plain prioritization and execution.
And honesty.
Lots of communication.
Fessing up.
Yeah, it wasn't me that did it. It was the people there. And we couldn't hire more people to get the job done. We had to work with people that we had. and we had to remotivate them because they were all stressed and tired.
Right.
And it just plain was a nice thing.
There's nothing more motivating than just a sense of reality, that giving them something to do that's actually possible. It's kind of a breath of fresh air at that point, I imagine.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, during this point, you also wrote your first book. How did
Right.
that project come about?
Well, I almost didn't graduate college because my English writing skills were pretty bad. I had to take a remedial thing. I didn't understand it. I thought I was pretty good, but they obviously
Apparently
didn't
not.
Yeah, apparently not. I went to a software management seminar where the speakers were academics to some degree, and also folks that treated it as a funny thing. For example, one of the seminars was 17 ways to lie about making your schedule and to look good, and it was packed with people attending. Another one was how to automatically estimate a schedule based on some formula, and this guy thought he had the answer, and it was ridiculous. So I went and complained to the show management that none of these folks were living in the real world. I wish I hadn't complained, because I walked out, signed up for the next season to do some seminars there at their stupid show. And so I didn't have any idea what to do. So I went back to Dallas and sat with my management team, and I was looking at this crew of misfits and said, y'all, you're nothing but a bunch of software maniacs. I can't understand how we ship anything. Then I realized, software maniacs. That's a good title. I like it. So we called it Managing Software. I called it Managing Software Maniacs. The speech, and shortly thereafter, after the speeches, when I finally gave them, they were pretty heavily attended for some reason. I guess the title was a little catchy, because I certainly wasn't. And I decided to write a book about it, and I was turned down by about 20 publishers. There's nothing like that feeling of despair.
Yes.
Yeah.
And had you written the book by the time you were going to the publishers, or you went to them with a concept?
I went with them with a concept.
And finally someone said yes.
Yeah. It was great.
Did you enjoy the process of writing?
Hell no. You know, I'd never seen so much red ink in my life, and but what they assured me that no matter how good a writer you are, they're going to tear your guts apart, and you better be able to live with it. I said, okay. And they did, and it was great. So they did some good work on it.
What told you it was time to leave AC Nielsen?
Well, what had happened was our little startup had grown from 20. By the time I had over 200, 300 employees at 3 sites: Green Bay, Wisconsin, Chicago, Illinois, and Dallas, Texas. And at that point, they wanted me to relocate to Chicago. And at that time of my life, I didn't like getting cold much, and so I didn't want to move.
And you just said, no, thank you. So
they didn't buy that story,
no,
but
not after the other experience.
It felt good. It made sense to me.
So you decided it was time to leave the company.
Yeah.
Well, you had several other jobs in between that, and then in October of 2002, you relocated again and came to the Pacific Northwest to become the SVP for Solucient.
Right.
What does the company do, and what is the scope of your responsibility?
The company does healthcare products. Our customer base are primarily hospitals, and we provide information based on their data and other hospital data that allows them to compare and benchmark how they're operating. A hospital is in the business to make money, but they're also, more importantly, there to give good health care. So we have on staff clinicians and statisticians and all sorts of a great brain trust of where we actually look at how to evaluate what the best hospitals should do to be good for patient care, and also in the meantime how to also be profitable at it, because they do need to stay in business. So we provide software services, software tools for them. We obviously protect patients' rights with a HIPAA Act, but it's a wonderful set of applications, and we're highly thought of.
You said that you loved working in the vertical market.
Yes.
What do you love so much about verticals in general, and why is healthcare so appealing?
The good thing there's a difference between vertical markets and like horizontal markets, and the horizontal markets tend to be those such as wireless technology, operating systems, device drivers, technology that doesn't own a specific industry that can benefit all. The problem with that is it's very difficult to survive in those markets, especially with the big companies like Novell, Microsoft, some of the others. Nothing against those companies, but they end up taking over more and more of those like horizontal opportunities. On the vertical markets, it's great because you're focused towards a given customer segment, like healthcare or insurance, or in the case with AC Nielsen, marketing research towards the retailers, and so it's a lot more fun to be in those markets.
And what about healthcare in particular?
Well, we're helping people. I mean, healthcare is very important, and that's one of the main reasons that I joined the company. I thought that was important.
So you've had a lot of managerial experiences through your career, and I think as you start to move on, you start to clarify what kind of organization you want to work in.
Right.
What kind of culture have you tried to create within your department here?
Very important. One, that we're fiscally solvent, but more importantly, that we're doing the right thing for the customer, meaning the market first. And like you said at the very start, I really do believe in that if you satisfy the customer first, they're going to reward you with money, with revenue, with loot. And the more loot you make, the more the company prospers, and there's nothing like working for a company that is going places, that is successful. Even if you're not quite so technically challenged, it's a wonderful feeling.
So you're just trying to create that kind of feeling within
And plus
the
I like
environment.
shipping stuff. I mean, creating and shipping things, it's wonderful.
And they get to do that. What are some of the projects that you've focused on since you've been there that have had a significant impact to the company?
We've had a number of products that not too different from most software companies that have been around for a long time. Solution has been around in various forms for over 20 years. And I think it's the migration, taking legacy products into the modern internet world. All of our products right now are internet based. That wasn't the case a couple of years ago. So we're doing that. So it's pretty exciting, and customers like it. They get the instant feedback off of the internet. We're also doing things where data that we capture from the customer actually comes in through the internet now. So it's pretty exciting how fast we can turn around the information, whereas before, the amount of time it would take to process data and verify it and get it online would take quite a length of time. Now it's taking far less time.
Can you give a scenario example of something that used to go one way and now is going another way?
Yeah, for example, data coming in would be from a hospital. For example, patient level data would go through our processing, like the general ledger, for example, of a hospital. And it would be processed, and all of a sudden if we find errors, we have to go back to the customer, they have to recheck it, and then they resubmit it again. All that stuff can take days, if not weeks. Yet the more time it takes, the more stale that data becomes, and the more it doesn't really become that useful to a customer. Now, with one of our newer products, the Action product line, the customer themselves off of the internet upload that data. They get instant feedback. If there's problems, they can change it online, and they don't have to resubmit the whole thing. So not unlike the buying experience that we all have working with the internet through Amazon and companies like that, the customer is given more responsibility to do everything now. So
but also more control.
More control. So it's neat.
What are some of the biggest opportunities and biggest challenges that you think the company is going to face in the next couple of years?
I think probably prioritizing its product line so that we do fewer things better. I think one thing that is interesting in the software business, because it's so changeable, it's so easy to come up with an idea and start hacking some product concept. The whole idea of ensuring that we have a really good, solid, strategic roadmap. And we're working on that. And I think that whole thing is going to make us a much more formidable competitor down the road. And it's not unusual for software companies, even the small ones, to think about strategy after building a product for a given customer and hoping that what one customer wants, the others will want. So we're getting a lot better at that.
Is the kind of clarity that you're providing being well received?
Oh, yes.
Or
Oh yes, everybody believes that.
So how does this company differ from some of the companies you've worked for in the past?
How does it differ? The company is geographically dispersed, where some of the companies I've been with have been more locally, like headquartered. The healthcare business is challenging because there's new competitors all the time, and the regulations which we have to abide by are changing, and you have to comply. So there's outside forces that we need to comply with instantly. So that's kind of a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. How would you describe your management style?
I think people would think that I am pretty serious about delivering quality products to schedule and under budget. I think they think that I try to keep the pain and the politics away from them as much as possible.
Do they recognize that, do you think?
I don't know. I honestly can't say. I would say that I try to keep things lively. I think I have a vicious sense of humor, but no one else does. So.
Well, respect also seems to be a focal point of your management style. Why has that become so important to you?
Because it's we're not going to succeed unless the team succeeds, and it is very easy in our business, in any business, to lay blame, and we're under constant schedule pressure. It is not necessarily a fun job when it comes down to it. It's not a 9 to 5. Be creative and go out for lattes at night and see movies and have fun at some clubs downtown in Seattle. I wish I was doing more of that, but I'm not. But the pressure to deliver can be very consuming. So the respect to the individual, what they bring to the party, becomes very important for me. Whether I succeed on it as a manager, I'm not sure, but I certainly think about it.
What's a Jethro?
Where'd you hear that? Oh no. I deal with a lot of prima donnas and deal with a lot of stress and push and pull in the everyday effort of making key decisions to get products to market. And there are times where I use the Jethro term to bring people down a level to be, you know what, we're all getting paid. You're not as smart as you think you are. I won't say that, but we're all Jethros on this bus. Let's relax and get this job done. Quit out-psyching everyone else. And, you know, most people get it. Most people get it.
It's pretty clear what success can do for a career. How can you make a failure work for you?
Boy, you know, I've been fired before, and that has been a very humbling experience. But it makes you stronger. I've never taken a job for granted. I think anyone coming out from a graduating class in college should look at it the same way. The economic situation is completely unforgiving. And the last thing you want to do is move back with your parents. Heaven forbid. Don't even get me started on that one, you know. But it's very important for whatever, to take any opportunity you can, get your foot in that door, and just hold on and just take opportunities within the company or even without, you know, to further yourself. But it's very important that you also balance your home life, whatever your after-work life, with your work life, because this is the type of job that will consume you. There is no doubt about it.
Are you good at creating that balance?
I haven't been at times, but I think I am.
Getting better?
Oh yeah, it's important.
You talked before about how important teams were. How do you build a strong team, and what do you look for in the players?
When I personally do a lot of reference checking as well as the interviewing for people at all levels. And I really look for signals that we have a team player disaster. And those are very easy to pick up during the interviews, and very easy, even more easier to pick up on the reference checks that we end up doing.
How so?
Well, it's very interesting to find out how people handle themselves during stress. What happens when they get behind on a project? Do they quickly lay blame? Do they tend to pick the assignments that best fit them, like intellectually, but they're probably better suited to do like assignment that is better in tune for what the company needs. I've had numerous situations like that, and I've had to fire people. Once I did it on the spot when a guy refused to actually work on a project that was the most important thing for the company. He was wearing polyester too, so I lit him on the way out. So people realized that that boy was out of there. And the one lesson I learned about that is you need to always talk to human resources before you do that. That was a difficult lesson for me.
How did that resolve itself?
How did that resolve itself? I'll tell you what. He was very talented and he knew it. And what was interesting was we had to get the project done. He had refused to do it. He made that statement in front of everyone on the teams that he wasn't going to do it, even though he knew he was the right one to do it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that.
I had talked to him afterwards and tried to coerce him, and his statement was, you know, I'm being recruited heavily by all these companies. I don't need to work here. This is the only other project I want to do. You can't make me do it. That was an opportunity for me to communicate. And what happened was afterwards, 2 or 3 other people came up to me and said, you know what, we saw what had happened, and frankly, we're glad the guy's gone. He was not a team player to begin with, and we're going to spend extra hours, and we're going to get that project done, even though we're not quite as talented as he was. But we're going to get it done because you keep on saying it's the right thing for the customer and for the company, and at least you're consistent. And they did. I was really pleased about that.
Yeah, because you never know how that's...
I was lucky.
Yeah, well, you were lucky, but you never know how those kinds of things are going to work. When you let go of somebody who's a very talented person, sometimes people can get very nervous by that, and other times they just revel in it. What are some other ways that you use to motivate people?
I like to periodically give people time off. I also like to have bashes that includes alcohol.
Big surprise.
Yeah, I also like people that I meet down at Pike's Place Market that are interesting, like the balloonist guys, and I haul them into a meeting. You know, crazy stuff, just to mix it up a little bit. Sure, why not?
Yeah. Kind of along the lines of that, you talked about how you try and deflect some of the stress, so it doesn't get to your people. How do you handle the stress?
I guess I was the oldest born, and I've always been responsible, and I don't think it affects me. Maybe it does, but I prefer not to show that stress to other folks. It's just, you know, they don't need to hear it from me, and I also don't want them to get it directly as much as possible either. You can't help it. You can't avoid it all the time.
So you just suck it up?
Sure.
Yeah. And that doesn't give you ulcers?
No.
No? Good. Wow, you must have a good stomach. Which of your skills are you most proud of?
Communication and follow through. Follow through all the time. Yes, most important.
Where do you wish you were stronger?
I wish I wish I was meaner.
Really? Are you serious, or are you teasing me? No,
I'm teasing you.
Wish you were meaner.
I wish there were more hours in the day, because the other thing that's interesting is I don't schedule myself out so that I'm always tied up in meetings all day. My calendar throughout the week is pretty much, I'd say easily about 65–75% open, which floors people.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like doing is getting rid of all the meetings that don't have agendas, that aren't going to be productive. Why do it? And it has really helped morale from that point of view. Because if you're in meetings all day, how in the world are you going to get your work done?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
You talked about the importance of being a good team player. What are some of the other things that you look for in a potential hire?
Skill to do the job. And I've made the mistake of hiring people in 2 particular cases over the last 12 years, where I hired people that everyone liked, but they weren't quite talented enough to do that job. And there's nothing worse than after 3 or 4 months having to let a person go.
That everybody liked.
That everybody liked, but then again couldn't do the job, and that was my fault for doing it.
Do you have an opinion on all the outsourcing that's happening within the development field?
Yeah. I think where products are in a maintenance mode where they are well defined and you are really looking at cost, that makes perfect sense to outsource. If they are creative things that are going to require a lot of like interaction and interplay with other people that you work with, such as business leaders, product managers, program managers, those are the people on the business side that define what you're going to be working on. It's impossible where you've got 12 to 14 hours time zone difference. You may be saving money, but you're not communicating. And the amount of change that occurs when you're creating at the very start of projects is a pretty fluid thing, and oftentimes happens spur of the moment. And sometimes those produce the best possible products. You'd be surprised. So without that excitement going on and without that creativity that will occur most any time, if it's all regimented through email, conference calls,
Just
you know,
shuts it down.
yeah, you get sometimes pretty least common denominator products that aren't very exciting.
Yeah. If you were starting your career today, what would you do?
What would I do? I know I would do the same thing.
Would you?
I just love this business. Absolutely.
I'd like to close with a composite quote from several of the people that Ken works with. Ken is a rare executive in so many ways. He continues to be very strong technically and can talk technology with the best of them. But he's amazing at understanding how to dial back the techno-speak and delivering a technical briefing to executives. He's great at communicating with a wide range of people throughout an organization. Ken truly cares about his employees as well as the company's success. He's willing to take the blame for problems, yet will clearly pass on the praise to employees when there is a success. He doesn't covet the limelight, yet enjoys seeing employees get recognition for exceeding expectations. He's a humanitarian. Some ruthless people may see it as a soft spot, but cool people admire the quality. He has a hard time ruling with brute force, but if you're a good motivator and inspire people, who needs to use brute force? He is a man of deep personal conviction, honorable, trustworthy, and a man of integrity. Ken is one of the smartest, warmest, most inspirational people I know.
Information Technology Leaders is sponsored by Solucient, a leading source of healthcare business intelligence. Solucient provides comprehensive, results-oriented information to drive business growth, manage costs, and help deliver quality care. Their expertise and proven solutions enable providers, payers, employers, and pharmaceutical companies to achieve results and realize value. More information is available at www.solucient.com.